Today we'll talk about a country that is the best in South America in so many aspects. They are the most developed South American country with the highest HDI, they have the highest average income, they are the first in the easy-to-do business ranking, they have the highest economic freedom, they are the third least corrupt country in Latin America. It's even difficult to find things that this country is not among the best in South America. For sure they don't have the best football teams or the best cuisine. Peru is way better at this. But in terms of socioeconomic indicators, this country leads in so many aspects that you might be asking, is moving to Chile a good idea? It might be the best idea you ever had, but it also might not, depending on your life plans. Today we discover what you need to know about living, working, and retiring in Chile. This is one of the most exciting countries for me to talk about for a very simple reason. Chile was the first country I lived in after moving abroad. I will list to you the pros of living in Chile, the cons and the costs of living, using objective data, my own observations, and from other expats who also live there. So get ready to discover why the idea of living and retiring in Chile is so exciting for so many people. First, the pros, and we start with the low cost of living. To illustrate how cheap it is to live in Chile, I will give you some examples. For these examples, I will use Santiago, which is also one of the most expensive cities in Chile. In other cities like Arica and Valdívia, these prices are way cheaper. A meal in an expensive but still decent restaurant like Fuente Alemana will cost around 11,000 pesos, or $11.5. In Chicago, you're not eating any restaurant for less than twice that value. The price of public transport in Santiago depends on time, but even at the most expensive hour, it will still cost less than 90 cents of a dollar. In Chicago, it's more than twice that value. Electricity, heating, water, all these things are way cheaper in Santiago, sometimes less than half of the price of the US. And I will not even mention the wine. Chile produces some of the best wine in the world and the prices are unbelievable, but please remember to drink only with moderation. Talking about the cost of living in Chile, the best part is our next pro. It deserves a point for itself. Let's talk about housing prices. When I lived in Santiago, I live in a region called El Golf, in the district of Las Condes. It's one of the most expensive areas in the entire country, and I just lived there because it was close to my work. Still, there, in El Golf, you will find a nice 2-room apartment for 750,000 pesos, or less than $790. Do you know what you get in Chicago for less than $800? Small studios in Woodlawn, South Shore, or Chatham. All of that extremely violent neighborhoods. But let's say that different than me, you are not moving to Chile to work, but to live as a remote worker or a retiree. You could live in much better and cheaper cities than Santiago. There is this beautiful mid-sized city called Concepción, in one of the most stunning regions of the entire country, close to the Bio wine producing area. There, for less than $800, you can live in a nice 3-bedroom house, breathe fresh air, go to the beach in the summer, or go skiing in the nearby Nevados de Chillán in the winter. And it's very safe. And talking about safety, here are our next positive side. Of course, safety is not the first thing that comes to mind when we talk about Latin America. However, nowadays, Chile is one of the 3 safest countries on the entire continent. With a homicide rate of only 4.5, Chile is safer than the US, for example. Another pro of Chile is the weather, and that is something I really missed since I moved to Europe. Here is something curious. The best climates for human life are similar to the best climates for wine production. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the Mediterranean climate. Outside of the Mediterranean, there are only 4 places in the world with such climate: California, Western Australia, the Cape region in South Africa, and Chile. That is why Chile produces good wine. The weather is splendid, for both grapes and us, humans. But not everything is wine and pleasure in Chile. There are some challenges. So let's talk about the cons of living in this South American country. Before we start, I would like to ask a small favor. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. The first con is that Chile is facing some stagnation lately. 10 years ago, if you asked anyone what was the best country to live in South America, they would answer Chile. Unless you ask that for an Argentinian, because they tend to say their country is the best. Nowadays, places like Uruguay, and surprisingly, even Argentina, are catching up with Chile in many aspects. In some ways, Indeed, Uruguay is a really good place to live, but it's more expensive than Chile and more boring too. We made an entire video about Uruguay, the link for it I'll leave in the comment section. Another negative aspect of Chile is the language barrier. While English is taught in the schools and is spoken in the business sector, Spanish is the dominant language in Chile. Expats who do not speak Spanish may face communication challenges in their daily life, and this can make it difficult to integrate into the local culture, access services, and form connections with locals. While many services are available in English in the capital, in rural areas, services may only be available in Spanish. And the type of Spanish spoken in Chile is also different from other Latin American countries and Spain, and I personally found it quite challenging. The third negative aspect is the distance. Chile is very far from places like Europe or Canada. Fortunately, this is somehow compensated by the fact that the Santiago airport is one of the most developed in the continent. There are many flights to North America, Europe, and even Oceania. Now that you know about the pros and cons of living in Chile, let's talk about the best cities to live there, and get ready for a surprise. The first is Santiago. It's a huge city with more than 6 million people. It is also relatively expensive when compared to the rest of the country. So if you're looking for the lowest cost of living possible and for tranquility, it may not be the best place for you. Say that, Santiago has a really good public transportation system, some of the best hospitals in Latin America, an incredible cultural scene, and offers pretty much anything you need in a city. There is also a large expat community there, so it's easy to socialize both with Chileans and other foreigners. In Santiago, I recommend you to live on the eastern side of the city, in districts like Vitacura, Las Condes, or Providencia. Another city you might think about is Concón. It has a small town vibe, lots of nature, and things to do, from kayaking to hiking and biking. The weather is nice year-round, and it has a good variety of restaurants and bars. It's relatively close to Viña del Mar and Valparaíso, larger cities with many things to do, and only 2 hours away from Santiago. Going to the south, there is Valdívia, which has a very beautiful natural landscape around, fresh air, and a quite low cost of living. An apartment with swimming pool access goes for less than $800 per month. Further to the south, there is another splendid city called Puerto Varas. Here, it's for those that prefer a little colder weather. There, this huge house, more like a mansion, in an area of 5,000 square meters, goes also for less than $800. So what is your opinion? Would you live there? Do you know which country is a serious competitor for Chile these days? Argentina. And if you want to know more about Argentina, check this video here on your left.